Today, we're just taking a little break from this month's theme. I cannot tell y'all how excited I was when John announced the release of Turtles All the Way Down back over the summer. I went into work the following day and was like, guys, my favorite author is releasing a new book, and his first book in 6 years. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I could not stop talking about it. And my coworkers' reactions went from being slightly amused to being like, Brooke, you need to calm down. Now, considering most of these people have worked with me for 1.5 to 2 years, they should know better, but I'll give them the grace of being like, it's just a book, it's not that big of a deal, because they don't understand that it's a big deal to me. And man, was it a big deal to me. I waited a few days, I was like, do I want to pre-order? Do I not want to pre-order? I'm like, yeah, I want to pre-order. And then the release date came through and my pre-order wasn't going to come in for another week, so I was impatient. You will learn that soon enough if you haven't learned that already. And I went down to my local Barnes & Noble and bought another copy, and when I get my pre-order copy, I'm just going to take it back. And this copy's better anyway because, ladies and gentlemen, it is signed. Now, as for the book itself, I know there was a lot riding on the release of this new book. I know from following John through Vlogbrothers and through social media, he was really nervous how this book was going to turn out. And I know he'll probably never see this, but if he ever does, John, I reassure you, as of October 16th, 2017, I can say without a doubt to me that this is the best book you've ever written. For those of you who aren't like me and therefore don't obsessively research every detail you can possibly find on a book by your favorite author the way I do, and therefore might not know the plot going into Turtles All the Way Down the way I did, Turtles All the Way Down is about 16-year-old Indianapolis resident Aza Holmes, who struggles with OCD and anxiety. She has these obsessive thought spirals, that's why there's a giant spiral on the cover, that tighten and tighten and tighten, and she feels like she can't get out of unless she follows these certain compulsions, and even then, it only helps her for a little while. The story starts while Aza is in the middle of one of her thought spirals during her lunch period at White River High School, where her friend Daisy points out to her that local millionaire Russell Pickett has gone missing in the middle of an investigation of him embezzling funds from his company. And Daisy wants her and Aza to investigate because there is a money reward for anybody who can point the police in the direction of where Pickett has gone. And of course, because Daisy is her best friend, even though Aza is apprehensive, she goes along with it. Aza actually has a personal connection to Pickett through his oldest son, Davis, who Davis and Aza went to what they called SAD camp together when they were young kids. Davis lost his mother at a very young age, and Aza lost her father, so they bonded over that as young children. So when Aza and Daisy go to investigate the Pickett estate, they get caught and Davis covers for them. And Davis still remembers Aza and remembers what it was like to be friends with her, even though he's kind of disappointed and feels as though Aza's only there to get something out of him, even though she really does realize upon seeing him again that she does want to be friends, and they do end up striking up a friendship again. Peppered throughout the story is Aza's therapy sessions with a woman named Dr. Karen Singh. And basically, she goes to Dr. Singh to learn how to manage her OCD and anxiety, even though Aza admits she doesn't take her medication as often as she should. And a lot of those interactions are Dr. Singh trying to level with Aza and get her to understand that the only way she's going to get even a semblance of being close to being better is if she takes her medication. She'll never be perfectly healthy, but she'll be closer than she was if she didn't. Like I said earlier, this is John's best book. The relationships felt strong and real. The friendship between Daisy and Aza was so funny, and what I liked about it, even when it was getting serious, is you could see Daisy struggling with and mishandling Aza and her mental illness, which is common, unfortunately. I know I've done it plenty of times with friends with mental illness. And Aza so desperately just wants to be normal. But it's so hard, and she gets twisted and tangled up in these thought spirals, and she doesn't know how to get out, which leads to her having some pretty drastic measures. Aza's relationship with her mother, I watched the Good Morning America interview that John did with George Stephanopoulos upon the book coming out and them doing the Turtles All the Way Down tour. And John said, until I became a parent myself, I was not interested in the relationships between parents and their children. And that is very obvious in both The Fault in Our Stars and Turtles All the Way Down. Aza's mother clearly loves her, but what I liked is that even as a parent, Aza's mother, Mrs. Holmes, had insufficiencies in learning how to handle her mentally ill child. And I thought that was very realistic and very honest. And yes, hard to go through, but it's better than trying to tell the lie of like the perfect parent. Like John says, him being a parent really helps him to understand his characters a lot better. The relationship between Davis and Aza is super sweet because Davis does try to understand her. He's this teen poet, and he's such an angsty 16-year-old, and I love him. He's my son. He's a good bean. I want to protect him. Nobody in this story deserves anything that happens to them. As for me reading a book about mental illness that's handled by someone who has the mental illness, John has OCD. It was so important to me personally, to read this book and recognize, oh, this is what they go through. It's not, just being obsessively neat or whatever. This is what they go through, and it's awful and it's terrifying, but there is a way through. My two favorite things about the book. One, someone pointed out how meta it was, and I'm the kind of person who goes so hard when I'm reading something, but I don't notice that stuff right away. One of Aza's big concerns that causes her thought spirals and her OCD is whether or not she's a fiction and whether or not she has control over her own story. And someone pointed out on Tumblr, and I didn't even think of this because I just accepted that she was real to me. She became so absolutely real to me that someone pointed out, that's really meta. She worries that she's a fiction, but she is one. And I'm like, yo! Yes! Good! I hadn't even thought of that. Because, my whole life is letting go of my suspension of disbelief. That's what makes you a good actor and a good designer and everything that theater is. You need to be you need to have a good suspension of disbelief. So when someone pointed it out to me, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, you're right, good. And then the other thing that someone pointed out to me is that by the end of the story, there are so many ridiculous loose threads, but there's hope in it. Like the whole last chapter is Aza talking about, these thousands of things could happen. Everything could happen in a myriad of ways. And you know what? I don't know. And I don't know if I write my own story. But that's kind of the point of life, is to figure that out. And someone had pointed out to me that there's no ending. And for most books that would annoy me, but for this one, it works. Because there doesn't have to be an ending. For people with mental illness, they're never cured, but they get better, and there's a journey, and you just had this idea that Aza was very aware her journey was not finished yet, and that was a good thing. So overall, Turtles All the Way Down, to me, is John's best book, hands down. It is my new favorite. It replaced Paper Towns in my heart for my favorite book in his canon. And I absolutely encourage people to read it, especially if someone you love struggles with mental illness, particularly OCD and anxiety. They may not have the exact same symptoms as Aza does, but it might give you an idea of what they are going through. And it is gracious and smart and witty and everything a John Green book is and more. And I love it. John, you did a fantastic job. So what about you? Are there any thoughts y'all have on Turtles All the Way Down? Anything you liked, what you didn't like? Is there another John Green book you like more than this one? I would love to hear from you. And if not, don't forget to click like and subscribe. All my social media and my actor website are down in the description. And if not, I'll see you later, my darlings. Have a nice day.